Hi guys, and welcome to new video. In this one we will continue with the full stack web development career path, and next one we have CSS Code Challenges module, and we have only one lesson in this one. So let's start with the module. This is just the introduction exercise. Welcome to the CSS Code Challenges. In this CSS Code Challenge, you will complete challenges based on CSS concepts in our Learn CSS lesson. The best way to reinforce these new skills is through practice. We have created a series of problems designed to use your new CSS knowledge. As you complete these challenges, we encourage you to review past lessons, look things up in the Mozilla Developer website. I will open the page. Okay, check out the hints and solution code if you get stuck, and most of all have fun. Let's continue. First exercise is called missing semicolons. Semicolons separate the declarations in a rule set. Check the rule sets 1, 2, 3, and 4 and add in the missing semicolon. Let's see. So 1, font family property is missing one. 2, selector. So font style is missing the semicolon. Selector 3, the background color is missing the semicolon. And 4, selector, font variant is missing the semicolon. Now it should be all fine. Yep. Let's continue to the next exercise. This one is called Fallback Font. Add a fallback font in case the first font doesn't load. Currently, the body selector is using the font Roboto, which is being imported using a CDN. In case the CDN doesn't work properly, add a backup font of Courier. Let's see. Here is the selector. So, comma, and now let's add a backup font. Update our code. Okay, proceed. This one is called round image. Embrace web trends by changing a square image to a circular one. Change the style.css file to display the image as a round circle. Okay, let's find the image selector right here. And if you remember, if you want a circle, your element should have a border radius of 50%. Run our code and we got the circle now. This one is called combinator. Use a CSS combinator to make a rule set more specific. In the browser, the elements that have a class attribute of recipe are bolded. In style.css, change the recipe rule set to only select the recipe element nested within the article element. So nesting selector, just add the article selector first and then a space, and then we have a recipe selector. This one should be fine, of course. Let's proceed. This one is called Inline HTML to CSS. Take inline CSS and turn it into a proper style sheet. Let's see. Remove all of the inline CSS inside index.html and replace it by writing the correct CSS selectors and rules inside styles.css. Okay, let's see. So form selector first. We have text align center property, and we have width of 90%. and margin 0 auto. Let's delete the style attribute now. The next one is the input. We can also do form, then input, type text, placeholder, okay, style attribute, font weight of 300, width of 100%, font size 25 pixels, border 0 pixels. Then we have a color property with some hex value. Then font family, okay, with 2 backups, I think. Yes, 2 backups. And then the margin of 5%. Don't forget to delete the style attribute. Okay, this is the other input field, type of text. So 300, width 100, font size, I added width 2 times, delete that. Font weight 300, width 100%, font size 25 pixels, border 0 pixels. Color, same color. Font family, Helvetica sans serif, okay, and margin 5%. I think I forgot to add font size of 25 pixels here, and everything else is the same. Now we can delete the style attribute, and the next one should be the button selector for the button element. So border 2 pixels, solid, padding of 3%, margin 5%, width 50%, and I think that should be all. Don't forget to delete the style attribute. Okay, now you can see how cleaner the code is, the HTML code. And here we have the CSS roles, and yep, everything is fine. To make the styles reappear, link the style sheet inside the head element in the index.html file. Okay, let's type link. This is the self-closing tag, rel attribute of style sheet, and then we have the href attribute. Let me see the folder structure. So index.html, style.css. So just type style.css, update our page, and everything is back to normal. Now let's proceed. In this one, we'll take a look at the CSS position property. Positioning an element is an important part of shaping the layout of a web page. You have 2 div elements adjacent to each other at the moment. So right here, the blue one and the red one. Change the positioning of these divs to see what color is created when the divs overlap. Okay. Circle selector. Let's see the index file. Both of them have a circle class. Then we have ID of blue and ID of red, of course. 200, border radius 50 pixels, opacity 0.5, background, okay. Let's try with the position property of absolute, and let's do the same for this one. And now both of the div elements are positioned absolute. By default, top 0 and left 0, and they are overlapping now. That's why we got this mixed color. Let's proceed to the next exercise. In this one, let's see about display CSS property. Change the display of an element to render like the image below. Okay, let's see. Currently, the display property is the reason why the red and blue boxes are aligning next to each other. Fix this alignment by assigning the left rule set the correct display value. So selector with the ID of left, element with the ID of left, and let's try with the float property of left. Update our code, and yep, we completed the challenge. This also can be done in many different ways. You could use, for example, the display flex for the parent element, for the box element, I guess. Yeah, the box element is the parent of left and right divs. So just to know that, let's proceed to the next exercise. This one is about cleaning up a style sheet. Clean up the unused CSS selectors that are not being applied to any element in index.html. Remove the 3 unused selectors and their styles inside style.css by checking to see the styles applied to the elements inside index.html. Okay, let's find out. Body h1, h2, p span, game board, game card, card image, card A. Let's see. 2 pixels, inline block, height 200, margin top 4 pixels, padding, width, card image, padding top, card A. We don't have card A element, I think. So we deleted a 1. Game board, game card. I think this is the next one that should be cleared. And we have h2, h1, h2, h1, p. Let's find the span element. And I think we also don't have a span element. And let's find out. Yep, we did it right. Now let's proceed. This one is about CSS specificity. Read more about CSS specificity in the MDN CSS specificity documentation. Okay, I'll leave you the link to this page in the video description. Add a rule set in style.css to make the opacity of the paragraph containing the text "What will it be?" Okay, what will it be with the ID of question. So p equal to 0.5. The only element that should change is the second p. Think about the specificity of CSS rules when it pertains to tags, classes, IDs, and parent elements. Let me see the index.html once again. Okay, so p with the ID of question. It's right here. And let me see. It should have a opacity of 0.5. And now let's update our code. It is correct. Install.css, change the color of the h1. Color of the h1. And let's set the color to this hex value. Update our code. And all fine now. Let's proceed. Padding versus margin. A padding versus margin challenge. Take the initial teal and purple boxes that have a height and width of 100%, 100 pixels, and manipulate the padding and margin properties to get the image below. Okay, let me see the image. So first box, then we have the second box. Okay, this is the content area. So 100 height, 200 width. This one is 200 width, 200 height. And here we have the margins. It is the outside area. Changing only the padding and margin properties of teal and purple make the boxes in the browser match the dimensions of the boxes in the image above. Remember, the initial boxes have dimensions of 100 pixels height and width. Okay, let's start with the teal one. So it is 100 width, 100 height, and we can use only padding and margin properties. So height 100, that should be all. That should be good. Now let's adjust the padding so we can increase the width of the element. So let's do like this: 0, 100 pixels for the right one, 0 bottom, 0 left. You can also do this with the padding right property. I use the global padding for all 4 sides property. Okay, that should be fine now. Let's do the same for this one. Just change the top and bottom, also 100 pixels. So same property, just change the values. So the box is already 100 pixels wide and tall. So just add top and bottom of 50, which is 100 plus 100 of height, and that should be 200. The same for the right and left side. And now let's see about margins. So the first one should have 100 pixels top, any positive value for the right one. Let's do 100, 100 bottom, and 100 left. And we can use shorthand value. Now let's do the purple one. So we already have the 100 pixels space between the elements thanks to this property. So top 0, right 100 pixels, bottom should be 50 pixels, and left should be 100 pixels. And we can use the 3 values syntax. So this is the top, this is the right and left, and this is the bottom one. And let's update our code and see the results. And yep, it is correct. Let's see the image, and it is exactly the same like this image right here. Okay, let's proceed to the next exercise. This is just a review of everything we did so far. Close the pop-up messages first. So CSS Code Challenges review. Great job on completing the CSS Code Challenges. To recap on what you just practiced, we edited an image to make it round with the border radius property, targeted specific elements CSS, transferred inline CSS to a style sheet, refactored a CSS style sheet to remove extra selectors, manipulated padding and margin to align elements, added a fallback font just in case a font cannot be displayed, separated declarations using semicolons, changed the display property of an element, and assigned the position of elements to overlap. If you want to challenge yourself, go back to the challenges and find other solutions to the CSS problems. Okay, you can do that if you want. I'll just proceed further. So thanks for watching this CSS code challenge video. In the next one, we will continue with the full stack web development career path, and we will continue with the CSS section, and we will learn about responsive design.